He believes the present government cannot deliver and is trying to forge a broad anti-BJP alliance with a focus on the South. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the narrative debate here, Smriti Irani versus Kamala Hassan, and I request them to come up and to steer this debate, the Editor-in-Chief, Republic TV, Arnab Goswami.
Is everyone in the house? Should we close the doors and get everyone in? Is everyone ready? Are you all ready? Yes. Little more. Yes. Little like that. Thank you. Thank you. You see, I did not do the 9 o'clock last night. And I have never had a calmer day. It feels very strange. And I have never, ever debated with two people only on any program for the last 10 years. I wish you both luck. I wish you luck, sir. Many people may not know this. I have no personal affinity with either of them, at least on this panel. But have you heard my show when it says, it's 9 o'clock and it's time for the debate? When my show starts, do you know whose voice that is? This great man's voice out there. I will not be partial to him, Smriti, I can assure you. But I thank you both. And I'll just say by way of introduction today that these two individuals on both sides have one thing in common. They are both self-made. And I think that's the most intrinsic value that I can talk about them, which matters most to us. Mr. Kamal Hassan, you know, when I was 11, I think 12 years old, my father, who passed away last month, took me to see a film. And it was Ek Duje Ke Liye. I will never forget that, and I think it stayed with me forever, especially the song in which you recite all the Hindi music songs. Remember that one? Remember that one? Would you like to recite it for us a bit? And Smriti Irani has surprised me with the manner in which she has transformed into one of the best read, most eloquent political leaders of the country today, with a mass appeal that I think is enviable for many political leaders, and she's done it on her own, and I have been witness to her rise, and I'm proud of that as well. This debate today happens on the 19th of December 2018. Around the 19th of May 2019, less than 6 months from now, we will have the results of the next general election. The most anticipated, the most awaited, what will be without doubt the most volatile, what appears today to be the most unpredictable, what will be the most keenly fought, what will also be the most federal election, because in this election you see the surge of regional leaders and regional identities, with the greatest battle on issues, nationalism as an ideology versus regional identities on the other side, and also, whether we like it or not, Mr. Kamal Hassan, a battle of personalities, a presidential type election, some people say. But carving every election down the middle is one fundamental characteristic, and that is the narrative. We have to set the narrative before an election. We as a nation of so many diverse languages and people must know, what are we going to get into this election about as a people? What is this narrative going to be about? Can we fundamentally say, okay, there are many specific issues, GST, etc., economic issues, whatever, but what are the basic things which matter to every Indian, whether that Indian is in Digboi or Ahmedabad, whether that Indian is in Tiruvananthapuram or Srinagar? What are those basic, essential issues? And I always wonder about it. And I'm just saying, setting up this as an introduction, I always wonder about it every night when I go to do the 9 p.m. and we choose the subjects. We always say, what matters today that the most number of people in this country today, what should we debate? Because not that we have an exaggerated sense of importance, but what is most fundamentally important to us today on a daily basis? Can you imagine quadrupling that for 5 years and saying, what is most fundamentally important to us as a narrative for the next 5 years? That also at a time when the previous session Mr. Ambani spoke about getting ahead of China. We have to live up to the opportunity. And therefore, I open the debate by first asking either speaker which of them would like to start the debate. I have never had a pehle aap. Today is a day of firsts. I would request you to decide among yourselves the only consensus you'll be allowed.
Since
Who
his
starts
voice
the
opens
debate?
Republic, he might as well open the debate.
I thought it would be better to start from the left.
Metaphorically.
But then let me say this. If 2019, ladies and gentlemen, is a sign of things to come, let it be said, Kamala Hassan sits on the right today.
Brilliant. Wow. Fantastic. Fantastic. Sir, you have to respond.
Yes. She's got a direction right. I got my ideology right.
I think that fundamentally, when you ask the question, what will the narrative for 2019 be?
Yeah.
For a surging India,
Brilliant.
there can only be one narrative. There can only be one way forward, and that is development. For a surging nation, which is also an ancient civilization, there can also be this connect with humanity that previous speakers on this very platform spoke about. For an ancient civilization where a young democracy breathes, I think that it's quintessential that we also celebrate on this journey of development our diversity and look at exponentially enhancing our capacities given that diversity, acknowledging that we are at that time in the history of mankind where we can actually lead change, not only for our country, men and women, but also for the world.
Thank you, Smriti. Mr. Kamal Hassan, your opening remarks.
The opening remarks are that I have to agree with her, what she says. We're just warming up. So I'll have to agree with her. Yes, the narrative should be about the diversity, preserving the diversity and respecting the diversity. And that's the only way forward. And humanity is an easy word to mouth, but to practice it, we'll have to accept the diversity and preserve it. And I repeat it again so that it's a way of reiterating. They do it in Kavi Sammelans so that the point is not missed. And definitely we are going to be responsible for to change the way the world is going to travel, journey from then. So we are right now in agreement on the first round.
I thought you just said she's not sincere about her expression or the use of the word of diversity, or did I misinterpret you there?
Yeah, I know.
No,
I know.
I'm not baiting.
I thought he'll ring the bell and say round one, and he's only asking for more of it. No, I don't think she's been insincere right now on this stage. She's been very sincere in what she says. But putting it to practice is where we'll have to, we might agree to disagree, but Nation building is more
You are
important.
saying she's sincere in her expression, but not in her practice.
No, we should put it to practice. That's all.
Is she, as in her party, putting it into practice?
They're trying to, but we'll have to debate on that, and that's where it starts.
And I think to take it forward, the very fact that the party and its representatives on any platform are willing to engage in that debate, not only with, as many accuse us of, rhetoric, but also hardcore fact, hardcore statistics. I think the time that our democracy has come to that juncture is something that we need to celebrate. Because we as a country for too long voted on rhetoric, for too long voted on emotion. And I think one of the fundamental contributions of Atal Bihari Vajpayee to our political democracy was, he said, bring to justice each public representative and ask them, Bijli Sadak Pani ke liye aapne kya kiya? And Modi has taken that narrative forward. And he says that not only let us find solutions for the challenges of the past, but also set a vision for the future. I mean, the discussion that you had on this platform just before ours was about the fourth industrial revolution. Now, when in the history of our democracy have we had a government which actually perceives an opportunity for the future and prepares through governance a nation to take that leap forward? So the very fact that when Narendra Modi came forward with the Digital India concept, while also looking at Bijli, Sadak, Pani, housing and other opportunities, there were some who mocked him and said, why only Digital India? But the beauty of India is that we are, as Mukesh Bhai said, a country of 1 billion opportunities apart from the challenges. And I think that is the crux and that is the very fulcrum of our growth. The fact that we recognize as a nation that we've had challenges, but at least all of us are committed to finding solution. And none of us are willing to shrug our responsibilities for the same.
Union Minister Smriti Irani, to my left, Kamal Hassan, says the following words. I have no qualms about very emphatically declaring that I love my country. There is nothing regressive about it. There is nothing saffron about it. The Makkal Needi Kayam founder Kamal Hassan says, Smriti Irani on the other side, do not force or test my patriotism at various random places. I have miscoded neither of you. I will break your false consensus which you are trying to create to be convivial to each other. I will make you respond on the real issues, break the walls and debate. Debate with me today. Which one of you now wants to go first?
I will
Do you
only
stand
say
by your
this.
comments at each
I
other?
absolutely stand by my comments. Why should an Indian be apologetic about being a patriotic Indian or loving their country or loving their flag in this very country? And why would you compel me to then define my sense of nationalism and then divide us saying your sense of nationalism is a bit communal and my sense of nationalism is more secular? I think that is the biggest abomination in terms of nationalism or even patriotism in terms of how I perceive it to be. And my perception is mine, for my constitution allows me that thought process. So I think that what is extremely interesting to note is that while we speak about a surging India, at the same time there are many Indians who are told it is not cool to be patriotic. Why would you shed a tear when the national anthem is played? In fact, why would you want to stand? The best way to celebrate your democracy is to say, Bharat tere tukde honge, and I disagree with it. So why should I be apologetic about it?
Mr. Kamal Hassan, please do respond freely.
No, we are
And
not.
you stand by what you said earlier about do not force or test my patriotism
Yes.
at various random places. Who is doing that, Mr. Hassan, to you? Who is testing your patriotism at random places?
When you play our national anthem in cinema theaters, and that's not the place to test it. I mean, they can't.
I don't think the national anthem is played, sir.
No,
My apologies. To test somebody's patriotism In fact, a community of people come together and celebrate that this is the one thing we have in common. We don't have our languages possibly in common. We might not have our cultural affinities in common. But the one thing that we have in common is that goosebump that we get when Jana Gana Man plays.
Yes.
Respond, Mr. Hassan, respond.
Yes, but goosebump happen when it is done in a proper atmosphere. I have had.
No.
Go ahead.
No,
go
I request
ahead.
you. Let both sides be heard. Thank you.
I'm on the right, so not your right, anyway. But what I'm saying is, I have experienced a goosebump. I've had tears when I went to get my Padma Bhushan or Padma Shri the first time. I felt that. But if it happens every day, it becomes like it loses its effect. That's what I'm saying.
No, not at all. Even today, any part of the country that, irrespective of which Indian stance, I remember Mr. Hassan speaks about the appropriate place and time for the national anthem to play. Last year during IFFI, something went wrong in the audio control, and we were in a hall full of the most distinguished filmmakers in the country and the world. And because the audio didn't play, all Indians in one voice started singing the national anthem. They were not squeamish because the French were around. They were not squeamish because it was not deemed appropriate or glamorous enough. They were proud that we as Indians, irrespective of our diversity of craft and ideology, sang our national anthem and told the world that irrespective of our differences, we stand as one. And even today, this audience, a lot of it a South Mumbai crowd, ask them, is singing the national anthem not fashionable? In fact, that is something that touches the core of our very existence and our heart. And I don't want to be apologetic about it.
No.
I don't think my nation seeks, I don't think my country seeks validation from me. I don't think the soldier at the border is seeking my validation. That sing this national anthem for me. No. He stands there so that I can sing it freely anytime, anywhere I want.
Mr. Hassan, I will allow you one rebut before I move on to the next subject.
No, this is not a rebuttal because I have nothing to rebut this with, because I've been one of those guys with a failed sound system who stood up and sang the song. And it's not even in a language I understand. Most Tamils don't understand what they're singing, but they're proud of singing it. So we are actually saying the same thing. I'm only trying to put some decorum to it. That's all. We are both saying the same thing. Add some decorum to it. I have heard of an incident when Nehruji walked into a function and somebody started playing it soon after independence. Somebody started playing the national anthem because Nehruji was walking in. He just said, don't do that. I am late for the function, don't do it now.
Well, not much has changed, sir, as far as that particular segment of our polity goes. Today in the Rajasthan election, they say, don't sing the national anthem, don't say Bharat Mata Ki Jai, because it's not politically prudent for them. So not much has changed for them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not the most objective person usually. Having said that, I shall give my piece on the subject. Mr. Kamal Hassan, polite disagreement with you, sir, don't mind, but in the newsroom of Republic, if the national anthem plays even in the course of a live news feed coming, irrespective of the breaking news and what story you're editing, our entire newsroom of 200 people stands up that very instant, sir.
Mr. Arnab, try me now. Try me now. Sing the national anthem, see what I do.
Sir, I don't perform.
No, I know. But neither do I.
Let us be unabashed.
When it comes to my nation, neither do I do acting.
Mr. Hassan, let us be unabashed. Why only this platform? Let us all stand and say.
Yes.
No, one second.
That'll
why
end,
not?
That'll
Let us
end
all
the show.
stand.
That'll end the debate.
No. We want to continue the debate. There will be an occasion.
So let it be noted, it is not Kamala Hassan, but Arnab Goswami who stopped this.
No. That's Smriti Irani. Let's continue the debate at this point. Thank you.
That's centrism for you. Arnabji.
So where's the consensus now? 10 minutes back, we had a polite consensus. Let me move to the next subject. Mr. Kamal Hassan, you said, Smriti Irani. Kamal Hassan said the following in an interview, I think it was to the Hindu newspaper, I think, if I'm not misquoting. So don't be suspicious of me every minute. I like you.
And I'm not short of trust, short of hearing.
Mr. Kamal Hassan said the following. First, I will request Mr. Kamal Hassan to confirm that I'm not misquoting him. He said, quote, I think never since 1946 and 47 have we spoken so much about religion and difference. Adding, Smriti Irani, today the celebration of differences of such kind is on steroids. Would you like to respond, or would you like to validate that statement and then explain what you meant by that? Is that an attempt at bringing religion to the narrative from your side, or are you responding to religion being brought into the narrative from their side? Which one of you wants to go first? I'm asking you, either of you, whoever, either you want to respond to what she said,
Go
he said,
I
or you
think
want to explain what you said.
The only thing on steroids today would be means of communication. The fact that in our society, in our communities, we did not discuss religion within or outside the periphery of politics is being a bit naive. The fact that we did not consider our diversity, or for that matter, linguistic diversity, religious diversity, even while our constitution was coming into force, is genuinely being naive. The fact that you say that a state can function so that the citizen can be divorced from their religious belief is being naive. The word secularism does not mean absence of religion. And let me give you a reason. Even today, and I've read this through research, and you are, Mr. Goswami, only in a position to kind of confirm this. Supreme Court of India has on one of its plaques, Yato Dharma Tato Jaya. What does that mean? It is an excerpt from Mahabharata. And what does that mean? Wherever there is dharma, there is victory. So is that an insinuation that that institution that embraces that very old concept of our civilization is not secular enough? Today, as I sit in Rajya Sabha, on top, inside the dome of the Rajya Sabha, is that one particular verse from Mahabharata which says, "Jahan bade nahi hai, wo sabha sabha nahi." That verse actually comes from Draupadi's Chirharan. It is there inside our parliament. So did our founding fathers and mothers divorce the very concept of our religious diversity from our democracy? They did not. They only assured us this, that under one constitution, one flag, irrespective of our caste, creed and religion, you will all enjoy basic equal rights.
You want to explain what you meant by that? I think Smriti Irani has gone general on the issue.
No, you
I
want,
like Smriti Irani when
you want
she's
me to be
specific on the
specific,
issue.
then I need some kind
No,
of a...
but-
I will, but I want him to explain what did he mean. Who's celebrating differences of religion, Mr. Kamal Hassan, when you said never since independence have things been as bad as this?
No, because we decided to celebrate the diversity, but with unity. But there is a deliberate attempt to classify now.
Classify what? Can we,
Yeah. The
What attempt?
Hindu and the non-Hindu.
The Hindu versus non-Hindu.
Yeah.
By whom?
That you should make it inclusive and don't stress on the point. It is a Hindu nation, yes, by population. We do agree on that. We are the elder brothers, but we have to have and accept our younger brothers.
No, I beg to differ, sir, on one aspect. When you say that there is a deliberate attempt to divide, so when the Prime Minister, or for that matter the government says, let us build a road or let us ensure electricity in each home, do you think वो बिजली की तार घर में पूछ के आती है घर हिंदू है क्या मुसलमान का है? Do you think वो सड़क आपसे सर्टिफिकेशन मांगती है कौन चल रहा है मुझ पे, हिंदू या मुसलमान? So that is why I'm saying that for a surging India, there are some who are perpetually pessimists, and I don't deny it, who will always think we are a nation of nothing but troublemakers. But I as an Indian take pride in the fact that we are a nation which accepts our challenges, and we say that we are here to fix the problems of the past and to set a course right for the future. So why would you pray tell?
No, I think we should allow Mr. Kamal Hassan to explain
Please
in more
do.
detail what he meant by saying.
I beg to differ only on this aspect.
Yeah, but he has
the
said
bada
it-
bhai, chota bhai.
What did he?
There is no bada bhai, chota bhai. The constitution says Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, all equal bhais and bahns.
Mr. Kamal Hassan, please explain this further. When you said that fundamentally you believe that Indian politics is being divided between Hindu and non-Hindu, I need to understand A, the facts at your disposal when you say that. B, what do you really mean by that? Are you saying that her party is basically a Hindu party and that they only take care of Hindus? If that is your accusation, I would like you to make it more direct.
The accent,
we can debate it, please.
The accent is very Hindu. There's
Accent.
nothing wrong with that.
The accent.
The accent.
Of the BJP.
BJP is very Hindu. There's nothing wrong with it. It's their prerogative.
Yes.
But when it goes down into the cadre, see, the upper echelon always says the right thing because it's a democracy. Ultimately, it is a democracy. They will say the right words. The rhetoric has to be right. And you cannot exclude anybody. So that will be but as it goes down in the cadre, you feel the heat.
So may I ask you this? I want to counter you on this. If you're against this politics of hate, then why didn't you tweet anything on the fact that 1984 riots case accused the man responsible for a massacre of thousands of Sikhs in Delhi, Sajjan Kumar, was convicted this week? Why didn't you tweet on it? Why didn't any of your quote-unquote like-minded parties tweet on it? Because when a politician indulges in a barbarism and a grotesque act of a massacre in the national capital, I would have expected outrage on that as well. You say that hers is a Hindu party. I don't know what you mean by that, and you should really answer. But do answer my question, sir.
Oh, yes.
Why was there a silence on the Sajjan Kumar conviction? I'm just giving you a more recent example.
Oh, that we should celebrate that conviction. I'm not.
But there was none. There was utter and absolute pin drop silence on it. Almost a sense of overweening embarrassment about it. There was a feeling, Mr. Kamal Hassan, among a group of people, can we just get rid of this from the headlines? Can we not debate it? Can we discuss something else so that we don't deal with this issue?
No, we will.
I'm asking you. I'm asking, when will we? Does one have to be provoked to doing it?
No. I read about it and I was happy. I mean, justice prevails. So there's no question of sidestepping it or avoiding it or feeling embarrassed about it.
I think Arnab is disappointed the happiness was not on steroids. The only issue is that I feel if Mr. Hassan has that charge to make against the BJP, then explain to us, sir, that if we as a political organization look at fellow citizens and see nothing but their religion, how, pray tell, did Dr. Kalam become the president of India when the BJP was in power?
See, we are not finding fault with your optics. The optics are fantastic.
Do you think Dr. Kalam
Always has
became the
been
president
in
of our
politics.
country for optics?
I beg your pardon?
Do you think, sir, Dr. Kalam became the president of our country for optics?
No, because he deserved it. That's different.
Yes, and the people who made him get that particular opportunity that he so deserved and that we as a nation deserve to have a man of that excellence was the Bharatiya Janata Party. We didn't look at him as a fellow Indian who happens to be a Muslim. We looked at him as a fellow Indian that we can take pride in, who pursued nothing but excellence for the cause of the nation.
You talk for the whole party now.
Yes, sir, I do.
Good.
I don't need tuitions like certain political people,
I beg your pardon?
and I don't work on permission slips.
I didn't hear it. No, because of the
says-
applause.
No, I said I don't take tuitions and I don't need permission slips to speak about my party and for my party.
Thank you. Thank you.
Smriti Irani has vocally spoken against the narrative of Hindu terror. The phrase called Hindu terror. which many people believe is both incorrect and a gross stereotyping and oversimplification. Mr. Kamal Hassan, at this open forum on the 2019 narrative, where we are just, by the way, beginning to warm up. I would be just warming up right now. I haven't even got into the real issues yet. Mr. Kamal Hassan says, there is Hindu extremism in Tamil Nadu, and you cannot say that there is no Hindu terror. Whose narrative will hold on this? Smriti Irani's or Kamal Hassan? You stand by that comment you made? Elaborate. On the debate of the narrative, the charge against you would be of oversimplification and stereotyping to suit a narrative without being able to bolster it with facts. If that is the case, you should therefore describe in detail, Mr. Kamal Hassan, what you mean by Hindu terrorism, and then I will get Smriti Irani to respond before a live audience today.
Yes. Now that was translated in English. I don't know who, probably Republic or somebody else. I don't know. But it was an article written by me in Tamil.
Yes. Yes. Are you disowning the copy?
No.
Are you disowning
it's written by me, so I can't disown it.
It's mean.
And it said Hindu, I hope there are Tamilians here as well. And it says Hindu Tivravadam. Tivravadam and Bhayangaravadam are two different things in Tamil. It's a different language. Tivravadam is extremism. Bhayangaravadam is terrorism. I did not use the word terrorism.
Sir, would you use the same for any other religion?
I beg your pardon.
Would you use the same word, nomenclature, for any other religion?
Yes.
You would? When is the last time you wrote such a column?
I think when...
Vishwarupam came out.
Oh yes, it talks about terrorism in Islam.
In context to another religion apart
Yes,
from Hinduism?
yes.
Okay, so let me say this.
In Heram, it talks about terrorism in the mind of a Brahmin who lives in 1947.
So let me only say this much. As a nation, we are in consensus that terror has no religion, Hindu or Muslim. Terror is terror because it brings
Absolutely.
upon the wrath of violence onto innocent civilians and innocent victims. In fact, we are seated here today in a very particular place which saw those very remnants of terrorism from across the border. So when we speak as fellow Indians that the problem from across the border or terrorism per se is not an affront to our democracy or our humanity, but we look for nomenclatures which are politically convenient only for optics or for voting. That is when the problem begins. So I will only say this, and I'm not speaking only of Mr. Hassan, but famously one gentleman who spoke about the fact that he's fearful of Hindu terrorism today is Janayodhari. So miracles do happen.
What? I don't get it.
She referred to a certain Janayodhari, sir. Have you heard of one? A recent Janayodhari.
Who is that?
There's a recent convert to the very ethos, to the very beauty of Hinduism, who thought that we are all terrorists. But now he finds it prudent to, embrace the Janayu. So I was talking about that particular individual, sir.
Jenu.
Janu is in sacred threads.
Yeah, I didn't wear it. I come from a Janayodhari family.
No,
But
I'm talking about one gentleman who doesn't, use it for religious purposes, but for political posturing. But that's another debate, sir.
Yeah,
For
that's another
party.
debate. That I come
for
from
another
a family
party, not
of.
for you.
I come from a family of Janayodharis, but I refuse to wear it, and I'm proud of it. That's what I am.
Mr. Kamal Hassan, you referred to extremism. I have one question for you, and then we will be questioning Smriti Irani equally. Mr. Kamal Hassan, you referred to extremism. It's just a follow-up of what you said earlier when you said Tivravadam, if I got the word correct.
Yes.
Right. And you said Hindu Tivravadam. I want to ask you today, would you call it Tivravadam or a sharper word about people who say, Bharat tere 16 tukde honge? Would you say Tivravadam or another phrase, maybe stronger, which I hope you use, against people who say that in this city where we are live now, there should be a street war. Do you say Tivravadam or something more against people who say and write articles in foreign newspapers saying India is finished and the violence in India is terrifying? My question to you is, Mr. Kamal Haasan, I appreciate your concern socially when it comes to one side of the spectrum. But when it comes to the other side of the spectrum, those who do not believe in the sovereignty of India, those who do not believe in the integrity of India, why are you and those on your side so silent?
Who's on my side? Please explain.
A number of political parties, like those who always were quiet on the 1984 riots as well. I mean specifically all those parties as well.
Yes.
Your allies and your potential allies.
No, now you're forming a group. You didn't even ask my permission. Whether I'm part of the, what do you call it? Gathbandhan. Mahagathbandhan. You didn't even ask me. You
no, but
assumed.
I'm asking you.
You're assuming that they are my
but I'm
allies.
asking you now, the drift of the question, Mr. Kamal Haasan, I will answer it as straight as you can. You mentioned Hindu Tivravadam on one side. What do you feel of people who call for street wars in the name of caste? And right after that, we see the Bhima Koregaon violence. These threats lead to violence, lead to riots. What do you feel of people who give a platform for sympathy with terrorists like Afzal Guru, who was responsible for the 2001 parliament attacks? Can it be forgiven? There are people who are forgiving it. In my view, they want to disintegrate the country. A voice like yours can potentially be very strong and maybe more vocal than you are right now to that side as well.
Absolutely, anyone who wants to break up this country is going to the extreme and soon will indulge in terrorism. Might look like we are switching seats when it comes to that. But I do believe that this country is a dream we stitched together. Promise to agree to disagree, but still we'll keep it intact. Whatever debate we have, we cannot break this dream up.
I'm so glad. This is fantastic. Brilliant.
In spite of all the disagreements that we have, we'll continue to debate. I'll continue to criticize you. You continue to criticize me. But keep this dream together.
Fantastic.
And that is why I'm willing to stand up for the national anthem. Along with it.
Ms. Irani, no one has denied that all your party's top leaders, at least technically, and even the Prime Minister has spoken out against cow vigilantism. But the fact of the matter is that the words at the top are not complied on the ground. You know that, and you need to own up for this. I would like to elaborate. The problem is, when you speak the good language, but on the ground, Jayant Sinha garlands those. Your central minister, Jayant Sinha, garlands those, and I don't need to know about the circumstances in which it happened and a technical answer for it. Politics is about symbolism. A practicing politician knows it. You garland those who were convicted for lynching. Alimuddin Ansari. Example number one. Union Minister Giriraj Singh meets Bajrang Dal and VHP leaders, and Ms. Irani, please don't tell me. Don't ask me questions about that. In the debate on the narrative, you will have to answer today. Those who were lodged in Nawada jail, your union minister meets them for their role in the communal clashes last year. Are there two parallel BJP narratives when it comes to lynchings? And please reconcile the stated position from these two examples.
Our stated position and
please feel free to debate.
And that we see on the ground is this. Irrespective of any case that you have just cited, in each case in terms of law and order situations, corrective action so that justice is delivered is taken by the local police authorities and the judicial systems. That is something that you cannot deny. You cannot deny that the party has taken a particular position in terms of upholding law and order. You cannot deny the party has upheld the right of every Indian citizen to a life of dignity. You cannot deny that nowhere has my party or my government been an obstruction to justice, especially when citizens across the country seek it, not only one issue, but a plethora of it. Insofar as particular individual cases are concerned, there are two people that you cite in this particular position that you take. Jayant Sinha and Giriraj Singh have given their personal positions on the same, but the party, they have. Jayant, in fact, has spoken in Parliament. Jayant has spoken in Parliament. That debate is available. Please have somebody in the Republic Research team just go right now and Google it. You'll find it. No amount of cannot deny that particular truth in Parliament because I was seated there.
You said you dismissed them as...
Let me again reiterate.
You dismissed them as...
Let me again reiterate.
Allow me an intervention.
Allow me the completion of my answer.
I have allowed myself the intervention.
Allow me the completion of my answer.
Okay.
Let me reiterate that from the Prime Minister onwards to every state government, in pursuit of justice, nobody has been an obstruction. We have ensured that the law rings true in any act of crime against humanity of citizens of this country.
Smriti Irani, please consider the full import and weight of your statements. These are, allow me the intervention, allow me. And Mr. Kamal Hassan, feel free to come in when you wish to. My question is, Smriti Irani describes them as two individuals. Do you believe they are two individuals? As far as I'm concerned, they are two central ministers. And when one central minister garlands a convict, and another central minister goes and meets them in Nawada jail, I do not think, Smriti Irani, and see, politics is about symbolism. Did you sack those ministers? Did you punish them? Did you suspend them from any political role?
The dichotomy of your position is such that while you berate Kamala Hassan for not talking about Sajjan Kumar's conviction, you conveniently forget that one such gentleman who's also party to the 84 riots has just taken constitutional oaths to lead a particular state, embraced very much by this Janayudhari gentleman.
But you've deflected that.
I'm not deflecting. I'm just saying put things in perspective and be extremely, extremely cautious in my positioning, which is, again I repeat, nowhere can you, Arnab Goswami, point a finger at my leadership and say that we obstructed justice for any citizen in this country. The Prime Minister has time and again, the party president has time and again said that if there is a challenge of law and order, ensure you go to the nearest police station, full justice will be ensured, and that is a stand that we have taken not only publicly but also privately in any case of crime against our citizens.
See, Smriti, now, again, polite disagreement with you on this subject, and I will let Mr. Kamal Hassan respond if he chooses to. I believe that the process of justice starts with the prosecution. And when a central minister meets a convict, I believe that he is obstructing the process of justice itself.
Not at all. You do
sorry.
not do justice to our judicial systems and our police systems, where you say that a process which is to ensure justice will be obstructed by any one individual who's not party to the case, or for that matter party to collecting of evidence, or for that matter party to the case being played out in a court of law.
I think
you genuinely do a lot of disservice to our judicial systems and police systems when you say that, Arnab.
Well, I mean, if tomorrow two people were to meet urban Naxals, in jail, and if two other individuals were to go to meet Solidarity, you'd be the first person to say that they are building external support for convicts.
We've had urban Naxals declare to the nation that they want to kill the Prime Minister of India.
But you would have questioned cohabitation.
And you've never had an interview with me screaming my lungs out.
Hey.
So I'm just indicating to you that when you talk about the phraseology urban Naxals, you've had in this very country, under this very government, that many people say, हमें बोलने की आज़ादी नहीं मिल रही है. They actually speak about bringing the Prime Minister of the country to death. And they do frequent your studios as well.
You didn't answer
my
question.
So are you guilty by that association?
Mr. Kamal Hassan, please respond. You've heard her at length.
See, the idea of going and meeting may not obstruct justice, but it emboldens people to say Going back to the previous statement you reminded me about, Hindu extremism translated to terrorism in English. When things like that happen, Minister garlanding somebody who's accused, it emboldens people outside who are not yet accused to say things like, if you say that, we'll lynch you or have him shot. That's an intent.
Tell me something, sir. When the Prime Minister of the country stands publicly and says that he abhors violence and that nobody in the name of a cow can actually take a human life, why is it that those who believe in the circle of justice be emboldened by that statement of the Honorable Prime Minister?
Yeah, what about the other two ministers? That's what he's
So
asking.
are you telling me that the Prime Minister's stand is subservient to any other circumstance?
No, that's okay.
So why would you brush aside?
He's a top man, but what happens to those ministers?
Why would you brush aside the Prime Minister's assurance and unequivocal stand that this kind of breaking of the law, taking of the human life, is not something that will find support in the government or in the polity?
But what has he to say about celebrating people who take lives or have been responsible?
Such as?
Yeah.
Such as who?
Those two persons who were garlanded or attempt to.
That's what I'm saying, sir. That the insinuation by Arnab about one gentleman that I was witness who gave his explanation in Parliament, and it's available for public, scrutiny, and the insinuation that the entire party and the entire machinery is party to injustice is genuinely not fair. Why? Because the Prime Minister of our country, not only as the leader of the party, but also leader of the government, has publicly on every platform said that you cannot take a human life, you cannot break the law and be spared.
Okay. So they will
So are you saying
not
that the
be spared when they take human lives, but garlanding is forgiven.
I think that, sir, to mock that position, if the insinuation again is that this is a part of the way our party would function, and
Any party would do that.
to insinuate that the Prime Minister at the helm of affairs is not cognizant of the challenge and has not put the force of his office behind justice, so would genuinely be a disservice not only to Narendra Modi but also the office of the Prime Minister.
No, we don't say that.
And to say that justice will not stem from that office, sir, is genuinely something no individual in this country will agree with. Because even if you hate Narendra Modi, I'm sure there is still a semblance of respect that you have for the office of the Prime Minister.
Absolutely. While you listen to other politicians in Tamil Nadu, at least where I come from, and how I speak of my honorable Prime Minister or my honorable Chief Minister in the state, I'm very respectful of that office and personalities. I'm not here to attack personalities.
You do say this at a time when you are seeing a litany of personal attacks on the Prime Minister, not about the Prime Minister, but on the Prime Minister, but that's not even the issue. Let me put this to you more concretely, Mr. Kamal Haasan, and we'll debate this. When political parties come together, and the debate today is about the 2019 narrative, when political parties come together, they must come together not just with the sole purpose of mathematics, that an individual mathematics will build a good number and that mathematical combination will bring us to par. That's one way of looking at it. I am more old-fashioned on this, Mr. Kamal Haasan. I believe that political parties must come together with a common purpose, with some common beliefs.
Absolutely.
It cannot purely be an opportunistic alliance for the moment. Do you agree with me, Mr. Kamal Haasan, on this?
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Then in that case, please tell me, sir, since you also find common purpose with various parties, you're popular among the communist parties and the Congress, and you may say I have not formally joined an alliance, but you are broadly part of that alliance today. I want to ask you on a public platform, what do you believe about the direct or indirect support of many individual leaders of these parties and many parties and their open sympathies with Maoist terrorists. And unless further I elaborate that question, I can find 5 or 6 such examples. Unless you agree on something as intrinsic as terrorism against the nation, and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had identified Maoist terrorism, Mr. Kamal Hassan, as the single greatest, as the single...
Let me wear this coat. It's not winter of discontent, but just the temperature.
May I continue, sir, as you wear it? So my question to you, sir, is that if you do not agree on something as fundamental as terrorism and fighting terrorism, you may tell me, Arnab, I agree with your view on Maoist terrorism, but so the parties you are cohabiting with don't, then what is the purpose of any understanding or any alliance? And you know the support that these groups have got. In fact, I may tell you, many Congress leaders believe that Maoist terrorists are revolutionaries. In the last election, they said so. Would you confront them on that? Why haven't you?
See, I was speaking of discontent, and that group is showing discontent in a way which I don't like. That's all.
That's very forgiving. That's a very forgiving expression. They're picking up arms against the state.
I'm not forgiving them. They have taken a stand. They've taken up arms. So that's wrong. I don't believe in that. I think the only way is not to shoot them dead, but have the dialogue. Why the discontent?
A dialogue with terrorists.
How do you have a dialogue with a gun to your head? What is revolutionary about killing fellow citizens? What is revolutionary about killing a security personnel? What is revolutionary that in the name of that revolution of taking up arms against your state, you tell people, rape the women along the way in the villages and let nobody speak, for we are revolutionaries. Nothing revolutionary about challenging the Constitution of India, and there cannot be a dialogue with a gun to the head.
No, but it should have happened a long time before it
and more
escalated
than taking up arms against the state, sir, I think that the challenge today is that it is not about only a revolution. For some, it has become an industry.
It has, yes.
That is where the challenge is. There are people who actually have their sustenance from this particular so-called revolution that people are talking about. And I abhor this kind of a stand. Why? Go to Dantewada, sir. You speak about Tamil Nadu. You have teachers from various states in the south of India who come there and teach with children whose parents fell by the bullets of the Naxals. I had the opportunity of going and meeting such children. And I wondered whether they'll ever have the courage to look the world in the eye and hope for a better future. And each of that child got up and told me, when I asked them, what do you want to be? They said, I either want to go into the forces or I want to get into the Indian administrative services, because that is the best response I can give those who killed my parents. That this constitution and country live.
See, Mr. Kamal Hassan, we are building to a 2019 narrative. I would want you to respond in detail to this. I brought this to one issue, sir. I'm not bringing it to an economic issue. These are issues that concern us. Our position on terrorism, our position on separatists, our position on Maoists. And when I believe that you cannot evade these issues, you must deal with them. First, if I want to be a partner with you, I will first ask you, are you a good person? Rather than whether I can do business with you. Similarly, if political parties must come together, they must first ask themselves, what is our position on the issues that threaten to break up our country? So has enough homework been done
Absolutely.
on this?
I've told you, any person, any political party, or Naxalites for that matter, they cannot be allowed to break up the country.
So should they be neutralized? Should they be neutralized? Should they be eliminated? Because you seem to indicate they should be spoken to.
They still should be spoken to. I think you can't fight. There is the state.
Well, there's a choice here.
Still there should be a dialogue, even while the war is raging.
Well, I mean,
I think when you lay down arms, that's when dialogue can happen.
Yes.
Dialogue cannot happen in a circumstance riddled with fear. Dialogue cannot happen when the constitution and the Indian nation state is threatened. Dialogue cannot happen with a nation on its knees, sir.
The nation will never go down on its knees.
Well, that is exactly the presumption That is exactly the presumption that those Naxals have, sir, that certain political parties unfortunately find revolutionary. And possibly this is the narrative for 2019. That at what cost do you want political victory? At the cost of the country?
Not at all.
That is the question that certain people who are indulging in the mathematics of power need to answer.
Yeah, mathematics doesn't matter. It's about the people. So you're wondering where I'm standing now.
I'm not, sir. In this entire
least you are.
debate,
Or
in
you
this
are.
entire debate,
And I'll
I've
tell
had
you
the
where I'm
privilege-
standing.
In the entire debate, I've had the privilege of you standing, and actually consensus has been built on many issues of national importance, for which I'm grateful.
Ms. Smriti Irani, it seems you seem to start believing that you have an upper hand on the debate, and let me
Never in the
therefore
presence of Arnab Goswami.
make a very clear point to you, sir. Make a very clear point to you. Ma'am, you know, Ms. Irani, are you really getting into, you keep saying that the 2019 narrative is on the issue of development.
Yes.
But I am not convinced that there is total credence in that narrative, because the charge against you is that there is tacit support to communal incidents. And let me give you a very specific example to the same. Recently, there were communal clashes and violence in Bulandshahr, in Uttar Pradesh. And in the case of Bulandshahr, Bajrang Dal members who have close connections with you caused violence in Bulandshahr, killing a police officer. The BJP-led government goes slow. Yogi Adityanath plays it down by saying the Bulandshahr incident is an accident and law is taking its course. But even that is not the fundamental issue. The question is whether in the 2019 narrative you have misplaced priorities. After the incident, Yogi Adityanath orders, quote-unquote, a thorough probe, and directions were issued for strict action against cow slaughtering, and not immediately for the man who killed the cop. Were the killings of cows above the killing of the cop? And when you take a position such as that, we must have the priorities correct. Only human life matters. In fact, at that point of time, cow slaughter should not be the issue. The issue then is, are you really aggravating the tension on the ground by doing that?
I think when you say that law and order as a subject can be devoid of the narrative of development, Arnab, then you don't look at development in its entirety. To say that building a bridge and ensuring that people are not free or secure to walk on that bridge means that this is the kind of development narrative I'm talking about, then I think you've misconstrued the position that I have taken, and that has the same been done to my party. Be it a chief minister of a particular state, when a law and order incident happened. In this particular incident, he met the family of the slain officer. In this particular incident, he asked for a full investigation and the process of justice to be expedited. But for you to say that in some way development will fall prey to law and order challenges, I think it's taking away from the 2019 narrative.
No, I want a direct answer from you.
A direct answer that law and order is fundamentally intrinsic to the narrative of development.
The Smriti Irani I have had the pleasure of knowing is usually far more combative and direct when asked questions, not by deflecting but by answering.
No, it has to be said that I have sharpened my political claws on you and because of you. But then there has to be a sense of decorum when you sit in front of a legend like Kamala Hassan.
No, but you don't have... No.
I will only say this.
You are...
I will only say this. For you to presume that the term development as an administrative term, as a political term, will be devoid of issues of law and order is genuinely not embracing the term in its entirety.
No.
So when Narendra Modi or the Bharatiya Janata Party speaks about development, it also speaks about ensuring security of people and their belongings.
No. See. And Mr. Kamal Hassan, she is using you as a reason not to respond to my question. Please protest. No. She says she's not responding sharply and very combatively.
All I can say
because she's
is,
in the presence of a legend.
All I can say is use the British terminology and say, holy cow. Now I'm being used.
No. Smriti Irani, till today, the main
Can you imagine the sense of freedom? He says the word cow and I'm not lynching him verbally.
She wants to move away from my question on Bulandshahr.
No, I'm not.
My question was on Bulandshahr. And Smriti Irani, the nation wants to know why the main accused, Yogesh Raj, allegedly from the Bajrang Dal, is still absconding.
The nation
Where is law and order?
The nation has known that the Chief Minister of that state has taken immediate cognizance of the entire issue. The nation knows that the Chief Minister has ordered an inquiry. The nation knows that the Chief Minister has also met the victim's family. And the nation knows that the Chief Minister has been unabashed in his stand that nobody will take law and order in their hands. This is the first such Chief Minister as compared to the last Chief Minister, the one that was projected as the young solution to Uttar Pradesh.
The nation also knows.
The young solution to Uttar Pradesh who failed on the issues of law and order. And the nation knows that this Chief Minister is celebrated for upholding law and order. Yes, there was an incident. Yes, the machinery ensured that immediate investigation.
Not at all.
Immediate investigation is undertaken and justice is being delivered as we speak because there is a process in place. I cannot juxtaposition myself in comparison to that process.
Will you give me an opportunity with a hyphen or a comma in this? The nation also wants to know, Smriti Irani, again going back to Bulandshahr, that the BJP's Bhola Singh, who is the Bulandshahr Member of Parliament, said, and I quote, Yogesh was doing noble and eye-opening work. The main accused is being eulogized by the Member of Parliament, and that parliamentarian is sworn to the Constitution of my country.
Do you know why the Lady of Justice is blind, Arnab? Because it can't see the parliamentarian or, for that matter, an anchor or a politician seated here today. The Lady of Justice only sees evidence produced before it, which is what will be ensured by the investigation process.
Why don't you bring down the hotheads? Smriti Irani, simple question. And Kamal Haasan, why are you holding yourself back? Not that this needs to be an action sequence.
What would you
from
like
a film,
him to
but
punch
why?
me?
No, the fundamental issue is this. Why don't you not? Mr. Kamal Haasan, first of all, unrestrain yourself here right now and ask yourself, not that civility should be thrown out, but directness should come into the discussion. I have asked forever this question. One weakness of yours, and actually Zeal, are these hotheads. If these are dispensables and your accusation is that the media plays upon these people, we magnify them. We won't magnify them if they don't have any relevance for your dispensations. But they are union ministers and members of parliament. And Kamal Haasan, do feel free to add to this if required.
See, okay, Bulandshahr is one thing. Can I take it down south? Can I?
Down? Oh yeah, you can take it in any direction you want.
I'll take it to Thoothukudi. The Sterlite shooting.
Okay.
The central minister says that if you can't contain it with the police, we'll send the army.
Thoothukudi.
To Thoothukudi.
Okay.
There are no cows involved, the people involved, total apathy there. I'm bringing it to my state, the argument to my state.
What is your question to Smriti?
No, you're talking about law and order. It's about people, policemen.
Can I ask you one question on this? Ask yourself today.
Yes.
Ask yourself today very honestly, without any doubt in your mind, what caused Thoothukudi? What caused it? How many NGOs were out there actively, directly, indirectly, voluntarily, involuntarily inciting on the ground? Ask yourself, are there no external forces which push these flames? And since you mentioned Thoothukudi, I will also go down south, Mr. Kamal Haasan, and ask you a direct question. Why Thoothukudi, sir, since we are speaking openly today? Kudankulam.
Yes.
Kudankulam. We know the protests which happen. Ask yourself today, when big global corporates come into the picture for nuclear reactors, do NGOs and third-party foreign UK-based talk shops, organizations which are funded from God knows where, come and incite the flames directly? Let me tell you one thing. We did a sting operation on an individual when we started the program. I'm not taking the name of that individual. An individual who on a sting operation was willing to take foreign money via a third-party NGO in the name of a political party to route it to an NGO because under the FCRA rules, funding for the NGO by their government has been stopped. So I'm asking you, sir, is everything that is happening organic or is it being provoked separately? And why don't you take a position against those organizations, these NGOs, which fan the flames from outside? I want a response from Kamal Hassan and then a response from Smriti Irani on this specific point. Kamal Hassan first.
What do you call external forces?
Foreign forces who have no interest in the sovereignty of my country and play a third-party role for global business interests. But couch themselves as activists, which they are not.
I know activists who are actually activists, and
No, that's
you're
no,
saying
that's your. I'm asking you my question. I want a response right here, right now, on Kudankulam as a response to Toothukudi.
Kudankulam is not what I was talking about. Yes, we will talk about that also, but there will be a position, and you'll have to have a dialogue there also, and talk to them.
Talk to whom?
Talk to whoever is opposing it.
We can't talk to foreign NGOs. We can't talk to people who don't declare their income. We can't talk to people who don't tell us where the dollars are coming from.
So talk to me. I'll tell you.
In fact, they would take a position
I've declared
that you
my
are the
income.
murderer of democracy if you say, explain to me the source of the fund. Those voices get louder that here you are being oppressive because you're seeking this kind of transparency in funding.
You're trying to make it sound like Toothukudi is a sort of outsourced attack on India. No.
Not Toothukudi, not the people, but there are always other people instigating.
There will be people always trying to do that from outside. That's besides
So
the point.
we protested the violence in Toothukudi more than any other channel, and on this platform I will do. Violence against the people is abhorrent and must
That's
be
all I'm
confronted.
talking about.
But are there groups and organizations who feed people out there to violence, who simply provoke people and put up there? You see, none of these NGOs actually go up there and face the bullets.
Those NGOs did not provoke me. I went there. I pay my taxes. So if you're talking about you're not able to find out the source of that money, I have clear sources of where my money comes from.
You're speaking for yourself.
Yes, and there are many more of us who went there. I would have been there. I missed being there on that day. I don't want to face bullets, not personally me or any of my friends. But I missed being there. I would have been right in the middle of that crowd.
You know, the fundamental question, Arnab, if you allow, that we need to ask is why invest so much in disrupting growth in India? That is because there are people who know the possibility of an India which unleashes itself economically and grows exponentially. And when you say that these particular institutions that are seeking foreign funding to just be a part of the disruption, let's be also aware of the fact that it's not only a commercial establishment that they seek to destabilize. They actually also come after our communities, our children. I've had I don't even know the nomenclature to put it. I myself, and I've spoken in Parliament about it, seen a particular curriculum designed for certain madarsas where the basics of that curriculum was how Indian children can differ between Hindus and Muslims. And these books were designed by an NGO for those madarsas so that they could sow the seed of disharmony. So this is not as harmless as just instigating a protest. This is going beyond that. This is trying to go into certain classrooms and say that, you know, there's always been a sense of disunity, disharmony in our country and festering violence against not only communities, but also against the Indian state. So do not think it is only contained to a few protests. It actually is much more severe.
So you are trying to say that Toothukudi was... it starts from madarsas?
Sir, I'm talking about my experience as a minister, having witnessed this particular aspect of NGO activism.
I'm talking about Toothukudi.
Yeah.
So
of NGO activism. And the point I'm making is that these kind of forces are not limiting themselves to only protests. They are not limiting themselves to the urban Naxal discourse. This is much worse. And as you have rightfully said, sir, and I may take you for your word, that as Indians we need to prioritize. that at what cost do I want political victory?
No,
Not at the cost of the integrity and
no,
sovereignty of the country.
You want to, you respond, go on.
I think we've digressed and we've gone generic on a question I asked about Thoothukudi, about shooting at people.
Yeah.
And we are for big industries coming into Tamil Nadu, but not under the cost of people, planet. Profit is also very important, but all the 3 P's are important. And the priority is the planet, the people, and then the profit. So we do agree. And now you suddenly took it to madrasas.
No.
No, I think that
I want to know about Thoothukudi. Please come back to Thoothukudi.
In terms of priorities that you've listed, sir, I think that we put people first. And there has to be...
No, that's not what happened in Thoothukudi.
As Arnab has said, and may I join cause with him, which is very rare, that when it comes to violence against our own citizens, that is something that will not find support in, forget polity, amongst any Indian or any community.
Let me explain.
But to feel that a protest against the growth of India cannot be generated or has not been generated, sir, is to live in the darkness of all forms of communication that are clearly telling us that this is what has been happening.
All rules have been flouted in Thoothukudi. The factory should have been 25 kilometers away from the Gulf of Mannar. No. It's 14 kilometers.
No, I get your point. I think I don't want to get intricate only on this subject. Our only point here made is shooting as people is abhorrent, instigating people is worse. I don't think she said that the problem was created in madrasas. Let me move on to a broader point. You said, if the DMK Congress alliance breaks, I will be ready to join hands with Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party in the 2019 elections. What are the fundamentals of agreement between you and Mr. Rahul Gandhi?
I have not said that. This is once again a gentleman like you trying to force me into an alliance and say, would you do this? Would you do that? I said, I'm not ready for any of it. But why not him? And then I said, that's the problem I have with them. So he said, would you then join if that alliance goes away? Maybe, is what I said. Maybe is not a yes.
So you're just keeping your options open. You're completely flexible.
Yes, absolutely keeping my options open. Because for me, Tamil Nadu is important now.
I am now reminded of a 10-letter word called secularism at this stage of the debate. Where has secularism disappeared in the narrative this election season? Everyone wants to know in 2014, the only buzzword in the election was secular versus non-secular. Secular versus non-secular, you are secular, you're pseudo-secular, you're non-secular. Where has that disappeared? Because now it appears the Shiv Sena has also become secular for many people now, because it's being considered as a potential member of the Gadbandhan. Can you please explain to me from both your perspectives, where has secularism disappeared as a buzzword before the election?
See, opportunism can eat up anything.
What do you mean by that?
Opportunism can eat up ideologies, be it theirs or anybody else's.
My ideology always has been nation first, sir.
What did
and
you
my
mean?
Nation doesn't surrender to opportunities.
If you become opportunistic,
it grows with opportunities, doesn't surrender
you'll have to
it.
compromise. If you become opportunistic,
you can never compromise on your country. That's why I said, sir, that there are some who are indulging in the mathematics of power, and there are some who are dedicated themselves to the surging India concept.
I will ask both of you
So
once.
the only difference is, sir, if you allow me, Mr. Goswami, and I'll say this in Hindi, वो सपने दिखाते हैं, हम देश बनाते हैं. That's the only difference.
Ms. Irani, you avoided the question on secularism.
I did not.
It could have been the narrative. You see,
I did not.
It could have been the narrative after the Triple Talaq ordinance.
मैं खुद देखता हूँ सपना देश बनाने की.
वही मैं कह रही हूँ, sir.
Nobody can show me my dream.
That's what I'm saying, sir. There is a particular part of our polity that has restricted itself only to dreams. And mercifully, there has been a part of the polity that has dedicated itself to ensuring every dream is fulfilled. And I, sir, have the proud privilege of serving under such a gentleman called Narendra Modi.
So,
insofar as the secularism narrative, that is a question. That is a question, Arnab. Very honestly, you need to ask a gentleman that I know for sure will never be on a one-on-one debate with you ever again in the rest of his life. That is a gentleman. We know what happened last.
You arrange.
That is a gentleman.
You arrange. I'll tell you, since there is a wild rumor that you will be directly in a contest with that individual in a certain constituency in Amethi. Let me then ask you, please ask that individual. I will, with the whole Republic crew, will fly down to Amethi and we'll have a debate there in the biggest Maidan in Amethi with Smriti Irani on one side and the individual on the other.
I will only say this tongue-in-cheek. If we have to get rid of that gentleman in Amethi, all you have to do is to say Arnab Goswami Aya. That's it.
Well, that individual, Smriti Irani, mentioned women's empowerment 173.5 times in the course of that conversation on that day. I want to ask you,
how memorable that association was for you.
As a believer in women's empowerment, let me now get you. You know, you believe in women's empowerment when it comes to triple talaq, but you don't believe in women's empowerment when it comes to Sabrimala. In the
Who said
no,
this?
obviously you don't.
Who told you
Nobody
that?
said. I said.
And why would you think that I'm not for women's empowerment? Only because I have a point of view when it comes to Sabrimala.
And we're now debating a core issue fundamental to half the population of this country.
Let me tell you fundamentally.
But you are not letting me complete my question. You see,
complete your question. Being the only lady on the dais, I'll allow the man to talk. Chalo, bolo.
You listen to a verdict hailing gender equality, but you rubbish the other on the basis of religious tradition.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely yes.
Nope.
Well,
Equality cannot be subservient. Equality cannot be subservient to the term secularism. And let me tell you why. I'm a living example seated right next to you. Practicing Hindu, married to a Zoroastrian, a Parsi. I cannot enter a Parsi fire temple, and I, as a practicing Hindu, do not go to court and say, allow me, for it is my right as an equal citizen to barge into a Parsi fire temple. I respect the tenets of that religion and the way they practice it. Similarly, when you talk about...
Then why...
When you talk about Sabrimala...
On Haji Ali, why do you not take a similar position?
When you talk about Sabrimala...
On Haji
it
Ali.
is not only women who have a particular restriction in terms of entry into the temple. Even men have certain duties, responsibilities and way of life before they are allowed entrance into that temple. Like I said, equality cannot be subservient to secularism. And you say that if you take a particular... No matter how advanced a society we are and a civilization we are, you cannot tell me that I will drag my faith into your Katghara and then explain to you that I am to be equal only if I have to enter Sabrimala, but be unequal when I stand in front of a fire temple.
I forcefully but pleasantly disagree with you.
Of course you do, you're a man.
Please.
That is why I'm saying.
Please.
Why I'm saying this, why I'm saying this is today. I tell you why. I'll say this. Let me say this today.
No. Now you provoke me.
Of course I
have. One second. You just typecast
so let me say this. Let me say this. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this.
I'll stand up otherwise.
As a secular, so I can stand as well. I can stand as well. As a secular man, tell me, should I get entry into a fire temple?
Wherever you wish.
Should I get an entry?
Wherever you wish. On your choice.
On my choice?
Yes.
And do you think when I embrace a particular community, I should tell them that the tenets of your practice is subservient to my wish?
I believe the Constitution is supreme.
The Constitution is supreme, and that is exactly why I said equality cannot play second fiddle to secularism. Till date, You have not had the fire temples open. Why? Because we respect the diversity of the tenets of religions practiced in our country. Till date, we've had millions of gods in certain temples where men are not allowed. Till date, no man entering Sabrimala has said, मुझे 40 दिन जमीन पे सोना पड़ रहा है या vegetarian खाना पड़ रहा है, मैं Supreme Court जा रहा हूँ. That has not happened.
We are in a season
That has
of
not
change.
happened. We are in the season of change. We are in the season of change for sure. But Arnab Goswami, you are the gavel of debate. You're not the gavel of God.
We are in a season of change.
Okay, we are the people of change, and let me come to that. You're telling me about ladies entering Sabarimala. Let's hark back and see how change will happen.
Yeah.
With the
No, you say.
with the consent of your gods. Dalits cannot enter.
My gods?
Our gods.
Your gods?
Our gods. Okay. Dalits, like in Sabarimala, ladies were not allowed. Dalits were not allowed into temples. You remember that? Back in the past.
As far as I know, that there are Dalit priests, men and women in temples
Now, I'm talking about the past.
So we are in the season of change.
So-
Let me.
So we are in the season of change.
That time,
Let me answer this
we are
one.
in
it
the
was a
season
season of change.
No,
At
sir.
that time.
Let me answer this one. And I beg your indulgence only for this cause, sir. Please do a research on a rishi called Aitareya, who has written the Brahman Chanda of a Puran. And that gentleman, if you look at genealogy, is not from the upper echelons of the community, but from what you call a Dalit or a scheduled caste community.
He's got the
No,
point.
why I'm saying this is that for time and again we are told that we've had these challenges in our civilization culturally. Do a little homework, read about Aitareya, and tell me whether that is also a manifestation of equality in our country.
Time to rebut that.
No. What do you want me to rebut that?
No,
with?
because you say.
Yeah, no, but
This
what happened?
goes to the fundamental issue of the narrative. You see, Mr. Kamal Hassan, now here's a platform, and here's a statement of yours. Elaborate the platform. The floor is yours. You said, we will not accept a one religion, one language, one attitude, and one kind of education approach. In the context of the 2019 narrative, you said that their party and their government has a one religion, one language, one attitude, and one kind of education approach. I wish you to explain this, in a little more detail, please.
No. This language thing has been fight for 70 years for Tamil Nadu. So let's start with the language.
Language.
I, as the HRD minister, sir, had the privilege of ensuring that the teachings of Thiruvalluvar go to every school in our country. I don't speak Tamil, but at least we are passionate about celebrating the legends, the legacy of our education systems and our saints.
Right. Respond.
See, that is a kindness that a country shows to each other.
It's not kindness, sir, it's yours by right and ours by right.
Okay.
If our children
It's
don't
wisdom.
know,
Language.
if our
Language.
children
2
don't
minutes.
know about Thiruvalluvar, then it is something that we as a nation should not be proud of. So it's not something I grant a particular
one
state.
religion, you said.
It is
Next
something I
point.
share as
Next
a proud
point.
Indian.
You said one religion. We dealt with language. Now one religion.
One religion is when I go to New York to celebrate Independence Day, he says, he thinks because of my name, I could be Muslim.
Well,
So
I
that's
have
a
the
New
name
York-
Irani, sir, so don't worry, we share the
wait,
same problem.
Wait. So, I'm only narrating an incident. I'll have to complete.
I'm saying even I traveled to the US with a surname called Irani. Trust me, we are extremely searched.
Respond. Elaborate.
And keep explaining that we are Parsi.
Pause.
Yes.
Elaborate.
Okay, so he says, Mr. Kamal Hassan mispronounces my name, but I like the intrigue in my name, so I leave it like that.
But that's in New York.
Irani ji said. So he said, India for Hindus.
Who said?
That man in the street shouting
In New York.
in New York.
He speaks for himself.
No,
And he speaks in New York.
New York, that's what I said. And His further slogans, you can make out from slogans that he's not speaking just for himself. Though you say that I don't have to take permission. Yeah, but when you speak, I know on whose behalf or for whom you're speaking. So I could make that out, that man was speaking not only for himself, but for an ideology and a party.
Why? Why would you presume that a man on the streets in New York speaks for my ideology? Did he have a BJP badge on him?
I beg your pardon?
Did he have a BJP badge on him?
Oh,
Why would you
then you'll ask me to check his genuine.
No, but this
Okay.
is the problem.
But you can make out.
Arnab, this is the problem with the narrative challenge that you're debating. The presumption, if somebody says in New York something about Indian ideology or polity,
Yeah.
the presumption that if it's something that you don't concur with, it has to be from the BJP. That is being very presumptuous, as politely I may differ, sir, as generally being presumptuous.
Then he praises our Honorable Prime Minister.
Well, sir, but so...
And he says Hindus, India for Hindus.
No, but that's
No,
his...
but what has the New York guy got to do with us?
Oh, he has all to do with you.
No. The very fact that this audience seated here today differs with you tells you the strength of your country.
So if one of the, if let me politely ask you this, if one of the 9/11 bombers had praised the then President George Bush, you wouldn't have been able to establish any correlation between that terrorist and the US president.
Michael Moore did establish that correlation. See,
So is there a Modi okay, finally, last question. He has a flight to catch. I'm being reminded many times.
You
Is
remember,
there a
I
Modi?
also have one to catch,
Is there
yes.
Okay, is there a Modi
On that it matters,
modification of the narrative? Who's responsible for that?
you know who is responsible, because people who say that we want to remove Mr. Modi from office, or we will all join together and take on Mr. Modi, they're talking about personalities now. Clearly, they are talking about personalities. That's a very narrow vision.
Okay.
That is why when you try to align me with them, I say no. And I'm not going to say things that's going to please her and say pro-Modi stuff.
To be fair to you, you do appear not completely aligned in the course of today's debate. And I must be very frank with you on that. Modification of the narrative. Last minute.
I will only say this. Those who are obsessed with Narendra Modi, the politician, so much so that गैरों को भी अपना बनाने निकले हैं वो जने उदाहरण करके. I will only say this. Why is it that the personality or the leader Modi perturbs them? I have had the privilege of serving in Amethi.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, in Amethi, which has seen the family reign for over 6 decades. For the first time when Narendra Modi became Prime Minister, we had Khad ka rack come into Amethi. The first time the collector's office is getting made in Amethi is when Yogi became Chief Minister, and we begged and pleaded that please ensure that our collector office works begins. When Modi became Prime Minister and Yogi became Chief, and that is what is scary about him. That everywhere they have left gaps in terms of development. He is filling those gaps and telling people that we are a surging India, and so that you can exponentially grow, I will be your partner, your supporter in that growth. And that is why they are scared, क्योंकि वो आज भी सपने दिखाते हैं और मोदी देश बनाता है.
And he said हम सपने खुद देखते हैं.
हाँ देखिए.
I will.
लेकिन सपनों को पूरा करने के लिए थोड़ा जागना पड़ता है और बिना ट्यूशन लिए काम करना पड़ता है.
I will say this now, that we may clap for one side based upon who we like and not like, but we've had a contest here today, and that is what is exciting. All of you are sitting here today is because you are seeing a battle, an ideological battle between two sides. You may decide which side won, but I've enjoyed the fight that there has been this jousting here today. And I truly have enjoyed this. And one note for Mr. Kamal Hassan Smriti, I don't think I mentioned it today. Mr. Kamal Hassan has postponed the shooting of the last film of his career as an actor, if I am not mistaken, to be with us here today. is it, you know, you've been an actor, you know what that means.
Absolutely. I will only say this. There was a very famous dialogue, since we're talking actors, in Jerry Maguire, that you had me at hello, he had me at the word Kamal. That's it.
You know, he has delayed the shooting from December to January at the request of Republic, the shooting of the last film of his career, to be with us here today. For me, regardless of what he does politically, which side he is or he's not, that's what makes him a legend. So ladies and gentlemen, fantastic. And to Smriti, I wish you luck, health and happiness to both of you. You represent a new wave of politics in this country. You, both of you here, are the true Democrats. And the fact that you've come here today for this contest and you've engaged in this lively and I must say polite discussion with differences is very, very instructional. I'm very, very grateful to both of you, for being with me here today. Rini, I hand it over to you for the next part of this. But a round of applause for both of these wonderful people.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. A big round of applause for Mr. Kamal Haasan and Ms. Smriti Irani.